What's up guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Yesterday, a bunch of creators from the community got together and had a discussion about the current state of Wiz and how this game currently feels to play. There were a bunch of different creators there. There was Speedster, Richard Unicorn Caller, Fairy Queens, Zayfa, Liam, Alyssa Love, Frenzy, and so many other wonderful creators as well. And we really just wanted to sit down and talk about the current state of PvE in Wiz. I will say it was definitely chaotic to say the least at times, but this was literally such a last minute thing and we did not know how many people were going to show up. But regardless, I'm really glad that we did it and I hope that we do more organized events in the future. I think the biggest thing to take away from this all was we may not always agree on everything and it's perfectly okay to have different opinions. The whole point of this was to have your opinion heard and to discuss how we feel. A lot of people have been feeling bummed out with the current state of Wiz and we just wanted to all get together and talk about it. It's okay if we disagree. I will say I personally did not agree with some stuff that was said on the stream, but that's okay. We don't all have to agree with everything, but we all have to at least hear each other out and allow people to speak their minds. So all in all, I'm really glad that we did this discussion and it was really nice to hear everyone's takes. Huge shout out to Fairy Queens for getting us all together to talk about these issues. As a smaller creator, it feels really nice to have a larger creator allow you the chance to speak on their platform. So I really appreciate getting the opportunity to share my thoughts with such amazing people. The last thing I want to say is the whole reason we all wanted to do this was because we genuinely love and care for this game. Most of us grew up playing it and we want to feel happy playing this game again. So I basically made a list of everything that we talked about in regards to the Nightmare Dungeon, raids, and max PvE that we think needs addressing. I try to sum up everyone's points, so here it goes. The first thing that was brought up was by Alyssa Love, and she brought up the point that getting into guilds is very hard for casual players. And I will agree to this. If you are a casual Wiz player and you are not involved with Wizard 101 Discords or Wiz Twitter, getting into a guild must be so extremely frustrating. So I really wish that there was a more accessible way for players to get into guilds in the game. Also, getting into the bigger guilds that constantly do raids, the spots are pretty limited, so they are very selective with the people that they choose. And as a casual player, that can be really difficult to deal with. I personally really like raiding. I know the Crying Sky raid is difficult, but I do really enjoy it, and I think that it was very well done. And I think that if you have not tried raiding, you should definitely give it a shot. But I just wish that it was more accessible to the casual players. The next point that was brought up was by Fairy Queens, and she said that the Nightmare Dungeon was overhyped. And I feel like a lot of people can agree with this statement. A ton of people thought that we were getting a new Darkmoor, but instead we got a raid. Now, in my opinion, I don't hate the Nightmare Dungeon or anything, but I definitely wish that it was more accessible for the casual player. I know King's Isle stated that they were going to make the Nightmare Dungeon like a mini raid, but I don't think the Nightmare Dungeon is a mini raid. I think that it's literally just a raid. You have new mechanics that we've never done before, you have advanced combat, and you all have to work together as a team. That is literally a raid, not a mini raid. Mini raid, I would assume that there are raid mechanics here and there, but definitely not the whole thing. So I know a lot of people are disappointed with the Nightmare Dungeon because they thought that they were getting a casual PvE dungeon like Darkmoor, but instead they got this super try-hard dungeon, which a lot of people are not able to complete. To go off of this, Frenzy made a really good point, and he said that King's Isle produced the Nightmare Dungeon, but feels like they went overboard with restrictions, to the point where you can't see the full potential of this dungeon, and you are never given the opportunity to try it as a casual player. And I feel like this was very well said. Most casual players are not able to see the full potential of this dungeon because they are not able to complete it. Barry brought up a really good point that this is a children's card game at the end of the day, and children are not able to figure out Rochambeau, and the cards are too confusing. And I will agree with both of these statements, especially the cards it's being too confusing. Trying to read the symbols on how to set up a gambit is so incredibly confusing, and she's right when she says that kids will not be able to figure out how this works. Now, to kind of go off the point of everything being too confusing, if you are a sole PvE player, you don't do raids, you don't do PvP, there's absolutely no tutorial for advanced combat, and you were just essentially thrown right in. And even if there really was a tutorial on how you can set up a gambit, for example, you cannot practice what we are being taught even with the tutorial provided. It's still just essentially trial and error in the Nightmare Dungeon. I know we get a bit of an introduction at the end of Novus, but that's really nothing compared to this Nightmare Dungeon. I personally wish that there was a side quest or something that introduces PvE players to advanced combat where they are able to try out these new spells that they have never used before. And all of this being said, it also just ties right back into the point that the cards are too confusing. People do not know what the symbols mean, and they are confused with having to set up gambits. The next point that was brought up by Frenzy was also a really good point, and he said that the community feels very divided right now, which I have to agree with. There's a part of the community that really loves raids and doing advanced combat. There's some people who won't give it a try at all, and then there's people who want to learn but are frustrated. And it really feels like there is this battle between the try-hard Wiz players and the casual Wiz players with the future state of Wizard 101. Some people say they're happy and it's fine. Some people are annoyed, but we really just cannot come together. So that's why it feels very divided. And I feel like people are scared to bring up their opinions because they are afraid of being made fun of or having people not agree with them or just being hated on in general. And I feel like that is not right at all. Everybody has the right to state their opinions based off of how they feel. It doesn't matter if you're a small creator, a large creator, everyone has an equal right to state how they are feeling. But I think one thing that a lot of casual Wiz players can agree on is that we are scared for the future of PvE. Zepha brought up a really good point regarding this, and she stated that in the dev diary that the devs did about a week ago, they stated that they do not want to force PvE players into a corner with having to do advanced combat, but essentially that's what they did. I think everyone has made it pretty clear that doing the Nightmare Dungeon on a challenge mode is way easier than standard mode, solely based off of the fact that you can use gambits. So to be able to farm your gear efficiently, you have to do advanced combat. And I don't know about you, but that feels pretty backed into a corner. These next 2 points kind of go off of each other, but they were brought up by Fairy Queens and Storm. And essentially it's that the training point buyback and spellament buyback, if you want to call it that, are locked behind crowns, and we would really like to see that being free. For example, I have Path A Triton on my Storm, and I really need a Path B Triton for the Nightmare Dungeon to be done efficiently. In order for me to reset my spellaments, I need to spend crowns to do so. Why can't I just do that for free? It is not my fault that I didn't know that I was going to need advanced combat spells and gambits for this dungeon. So I really hope that we have the opportunity to retrain spellaments and get our training points back for free in the future. The next point that was brought up was by Liam, and he had the opinion that challenge mode should not be the same as standard mode at all. Challenge mode should be for the try-hard whiz heads, that's perfectly fine, but standard mode should be catered to the casual player. And I will say that I highly agree with that statement. I feel like standard mode should stay just normal PvE whiz as we know it, no advanced combat or counters or anything like that, and they should keep advanced in challenge mode. That way, no matter if you are a try-hard whiz player or a casual whiz player, you can both farm for your gear equally and be happy. In my opinion, I could easily get into the Nightmare Dungeon and raids more if I had the incentive to do so. Because of the stat caps right now, they are just way too low, and I don't want to get a migraine for 2 damage. As PvE players, we do not care about shad rating. Also, to add on to that, there is no new world coming out this year because it's the end of an arc. So we are not going to be getting a new Wiz world until the end of 2025. So I'm even less incentivized to farm, because what am I farming for? I could just wait until 2025 and get the gear at the next world. But yeah, that's really it in regards to PvE content. The last 2 points that were made really have to do with PvP, but I still think that they are important to be brought up. I believe at some point we got onto the topic of gold skeleton keys because they are very difficult to get right now. And Liam brought up a really funny point, and he said that the best way to get gold skeleton keys right now is to hit Warlord and then do matches, because you get a guaranteed drop every match or every other match that you win. And in that drop, you get a guaranteed metal drop, which is essentially a gold skeleton key. For him to say that the easiest way to get gold skeleton keys is to hit Warlord and do matches, I just find that so funny, but it's really sad because what he's saying makes sense. If you are getting a key every match that you win, that really is the easiest way, but how many of you are able to make it to Warlord? Not me, I know that's for sure. So I really wish that they would revert the old skeleton key drop system. And the last big point that was made is that we would really like to see tournaments be brought back into the game. We really miss the 2v2s, the 3v3s, the 4v4s. It was a great way for people to try out PvP but not have to be concerned about their rank. I personally would be so much more inclined to try out a tournament and the different play styles that we currently have in the game versus just being thrown into the rank queue where I have no idea what I'm doing. And I really don't want my record to be 1 win and 13 losses because I've never done PvP before. So I feel, and a lot of the community feels like tournaments should be revived to what they once were. But yeah, guys, those were really the main points that were said during this roundtable. Once again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this, and I really enjoyed hearing everyone's thought. Once again, I want to thank Fairy Queens so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I really enjoyed being able to hear everyone's side of things, and I hope that we do a more organized version of this in the future. I really hope that you guys as viewers continue to share your thoughts and how you feel about this game, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we can do is try to have our voices heard. I know I speak for a lot of the content creators when I say this, but we truly are doing this because we love the game and we want it to have its old spark back. We are not doing this for clout or because we are bored and have nothing to talk about. We truly care about this game and want it to be the best that it can be. I really hope that we can continue to share our thoughts and feedback about the game without being hated on. And I really just want to give a big shout out to you guys for being so supportive of me as I was a part of this big event. As always, if you want to chat more about anything that was said here today, please make sure to join my Discord server. I will have it linked down below and I would love to chat with you guys. Like I said, I'm always open to differing opinions, but I'm not open to disrespect. So if you want to have a conversation with me about anything, I am more than happy to. But please just keep it respectful and I would do the same for you and your thoughts and opinions. But yeah, guys, that's really gonna be it for me. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!